In this presentation, I will present to you several types of context clues that authors use to help readers define unknown words. There will be 6 types of context clues that we will look at in this presentation. We will look at each type of context clues, define them, and then I will provide you an example of how each type of context clue is used in a text. So the first type of context clue is called definition. When an author uses definition, the author is giving you the definition of the unknown word somewhere within the sentence or nearby sentences. And this is especially true if the word is one that we are likely to be unfamiliar with. The author recognizes that, so he or she puts the definition in intentionally to help readers. So let's look at this example here. Every year, people buy self-help audio tapes containing subliminal messages to help them relieve stress. These tapes contain messages that are supposedly below the level of human consciousness. Okay, so if we look at this and let's say you don't know what subliminal means, what are some clues that can help us? If we actually go to the second sentence, the author actually gives us the definition of what subliminal means. And it just means that they are messages that are supposedly below the level of human consciousness, meaning you're not really cognizant of what the messages are saying, but it's sort of in a subtle way brainwashing you as you're listening to these audio tapes. Subliminal basically means not being aware of something. The second type of context clue that authors sometimes give readers or they put in their writing to help readers define unknown words are antonyms. And antonyms are basically words with an opposite meaning somewhere in the sentence. So if we look at this example here, it says Juana's house was very well maintained, but her sister's house was dilapidated. Well, what does dilapidated mean? If we were to look at the sentence, I notice the word but, okay? And but usually tells me there's contrast that's going to happen. So in the first part of the sentence, it says Juana's house was very well maintained. But now there's a contrast to her sister's house, which was dilapidated. So what is the opposite of well maintained? Well, my guess would be dilapidated means that it's chaotic or it's messy, okay? And so do you see here how the author, instead of telling you what it means, the author gave you the opposite meaning and then showed you the transition word of but in there to show you that there's a contrast, and that shows you that what the word dilapidated means by using antonyms by having antonyms as clues in the sentence. The third type of context clue authors use sometimes is they include synonyms. And synonyms are basically words with similar meaning and may be used elsewhere in the sentence. So while the previous context clue, authors might sometimes use opposite meaning. In this case, authors might use similar meaning. So let's look at the example here. Messages are thought to provide therapeutic benefits by relieving stress. However, their curative powers do not extend to all patients. So when we look at this, we're going to try to find what are some clues in here to help us find out what therapeutic means. And I can infer from this sentence that therapeutic and the word curative sort of have the same or similar meanings. Curative powers, therapeutic. Curative comes from the word cure, to cure someone from sickness. So by looking at this, I'm going to assume that therapeutic means something that has something to do with healing, okay? The next type of context clue, as some authors sometimes use, is they give readers examples. And these examples will illustrate the meaning of the unknown word. So let's look at the example that we have here to help us see what the author would do if they were giving you as readers examples to help you define the unknown word. So in this example, it says, Terry has such boundless energy that even after working a full shift and taking care of her two small children, she still wants to go out dancing with her husband at night. So let's say I don't know what the word boundless means, but I can see that there are some clues here to tell me, because it tells me first she worked a full shift, she takes care of two of her small children, so that's a lot of work already, and after all that, she still wants to go dancing with her husband at night. So these examples of things that Terry does tells me that the word boundless has to do something with never ending. So she sort of had this never ending energy, sort of like that Energizer Bunny commercial that we see all the time. And so in this particular type of context clue, the author will give you examples as hints to help you define the unknown word. The next type of context clue that authors use and give readers is they sometimes just explain to you what a word means. So they don't necessarily give you the definition of the word, but they explain to you the meaning of the word. So in this example here, it says the Russian gymnastic team was disconsolate after its loss to the Romanians. No amount of comfort or kind words from the coaches and fans could raise the spirits of the young athletes. So in this case here, the word disconsolate, I'm looking at this and it says that they lost to the Romanians, so that must be something negative. And then they go on to explain to me what that looks like. It says nothing that they can do could cheer up these young athletes. So the word disconsolate can only mean that they're unable to console or unable to comfort. The last type of context clue is simply using your own experience or of knowledge. Experience or knowledge of the subject. So this is where your prior knowledge comes in, and if you know about this particular topic that you're reading, you might be able to draw on those personal experience or familiarity with the subject to help you define a word. So let's look at this example. It states that, have you ever been seated next to someone in a restaurant whose loquaciousness on a cell phone made you ask to be moved to another table? So with the use of cell phones today, everyone is using them. And so we can draw on our experience, or at least visualize what it would be like to sit next to someone whose loquaciousness on a cell phone, to be asked to move to another table. My conclusion of what loquaciousness can only mean is loud volume, someone who's extremely loud. And so in this particular context clue, I'm going to base it on maybe my personal experience that I've had, or I can visualize that experience or heard of other people experiencing it. So these are the different types of context clues that authors use. One note I want to make sure that you are all that you know is that authors can sometimes use more than one type of context clues. They can use a combination of several context clues. So that just means that sometimes authors might provide an explanation and example in the context to help readers define the words.